The thing about being a roving newspaperman is that you get to witness some remarkable things, and often you also get to record what you are seeing on some kind of device or other. In the old days I used to carry around a massive Uher reel-to-reel tape recorder. Then along came much smaller transistor recorders, which became even smaller once digital technology was introduced. So, needless to say, I've built up quite an archive of sound recordings over the years, and as the rain pours down on my cottage roof here on Exmoor, I've been listening to some of them. One of the first I pulled out of the hat focuses on an incident which occurred on the English Channel coast in southeast Devon exactly 18 years ago. Some listeners will remember the ill-fated container ship, the Napoli, which came to grief and ended up derelict and unsalvageable just off the beautiful village of Branscombe on the Jurassic Coast. I was one of the first journalists to get down onto the shingle beach, which was covered in spilled containers and a vast array of their contents, as well as hundreds of people doing their best to grab any free item they could. So here's a recording I made at the time, and after that we'll hear a chat I recorded with my old friend Richard Austin, the famous multi-award-winning press photographer who lives just along the coast at Lyme Regis. Well, we're down here on the beach east of Branscombe, and what a scene it is. There must be 300 or 400 people at this point in time just wandering around with expressions of mainly dismay on their face as they see one wrecked item after another. I've just seen about 500 motorised car mirrors, having just bought one myself for my car. I know they're pretty valuable. I paid 250 quid for one. There are some beautiful oak barrels, wine barrels made in France, obviously never been used, perhaps on their way to a new winemaker somewhere. And for some reason, a number of absolutely enormous balls of wool, which may or may not be of use to someone. Back at the beginning of the beach, there are enough Nike trainers to run a whole Olympic Games, I should think. Now we come to another section of beach where there are a lot of packets of crisps, a Christmas tree, a picture frame, an all-night box, and some quite smart Cabor shoes here. And one man above me on the shore is carrying some large sacks of goodness knows what. Dog food. 3 sacks of dog food. So they're happy. Certainly most people walking back along the beach are clutching armloads of goods. Most of them have got them wrapped up in plastic bags, so we can't see what they are, and not very many of these people are willing to talk about it either. I guess they're worried about salvage rights or what have you. And now we're heading right out towards Beer Head, which is really, it's like looking at a football crowd on the edge of a dishevelled looking beach. We've just come across a great big roll of carpet or tapestry, or not quite sure what it is, but it must be 50-60 metres long. No one's interested, probably too heavy. We've now reached an area where 6-7 containers have been cordoned off by a police cordon line. Absolutely pointless and useless, because there must be 50 or 60 people crawling over whatever's there. It all looks a bit of a washout. I can see an abstract painting, and actually this is definitely an area where the containers held people's personal belongings. There's a large wooden container here that's come out of one of the main metal containers, and it's saying that it's going to Anita and Jan Bokdal in Cape Town, except it's not, because there are 2 large blokes inside it going through whatever they can find. So In a way, it's like looking at a massive jumble sail put on the side of a beach. Down between the containers, a rather nasty petrol and oil smell coming off the sea. In a container right at the end here, there are some amazing brand new engines. Goodness knows what they power, but they're big engines, probably for lorries or tractors or something. The three neighbouring containers are absolutely denuded, not a thing left in them. And in front of me are the personal effects of what looks to be several families, abstract oil paintings, clothes, socks, shoes, you name it. The entire household belongings of some unfortunate family. Right, we've come down to Seaton Beach. We've had our fish and chips from a very good fish and chip shop called Fridays, I think. It's very good, isn't it, Richard? And hey, but look, just sitting here, mate, looking around that corner, that is the scene of one of your most famous jobs, an infamous incident, the wrecking of the Napoli. You were, I believe, being a press photographer, you were just about the first person on the scene.
Yep, I was there about 6 o'clock in the morning and it was pitch black and all you could see was one single lamp on the boat. You couldn't even make out the size of the boat, and then gradually the sun came up and it was a beautiful sunny sunrise, and it was almost like tapestry on the boat with all the different coloured containers, and I watched them all sliding off into the water, and just down below the cliff it showed all the barrels. It was loads and loads and loads of apparently French oak barrels, which people were after. A lot of people came we personally know a well-known drinks manufacturer from the Somerset Levels who managed to get hold of some of those barrels. Yeah, he did. He managed to get hold of some of them, and I imagine they've got fermenting ale or whatever, cider, sorry, not ale. Get that right.
Yeah, well, we don't want to name the poor chap because, it was all contraband, but I think, was there a big police presence down there to stop people nicking stuff off the beach or what?
Well, when I looked over the cliff and I could see there was nobody down there, but some of those containers had burst open and there was all sorts of stuff floating around, I went down the cliff path, and when I got there was one police officer at about sort of 500 metres away, and he was obviously shouting to me, "Get off the beach!" And I thought, well, I'm not. I'm going to take my photographs first, and I kind of calculated the time he would have had to run down the pebbles to arrest me. So I calculated it quite. And he started striding towards me. I took all the pictures and then disappeared back up the track when he stopped.
You'd have had a job anyway, because it was a public beach, and at that time it wasn't declared an emergency zone. Or anything.
within 2 days there was about 1,000 people on the beach, picking up all sorts of things from wing mirrors off a car to beauty cream, and the most tragic of it all was some of those containers contained people's belongings that were actually emigrating somewhere, and their whole life's possessions were strewn all across the beach. There was photographs of the kids, and people were stepping on the photographs, and it just said personal belongings. It didn't make the people of this country look in a good light, really.
Well, I went down there, as you know, before I took an untimely visit to a local hospital for another reason, but there were just thousands of people helping themselves to everything, and in one way they did clear the beach.
Well, they did, but even before that, there was people coming down in white vans from all over the country, and a lot of them were not very nice people at all. They were breaking into people's sheds in the village, they were nicking stuff. Farmers were having... one farmer lost about 3 or 4 chainsaws, and he found about half a dozen people sleeping in his barn when he got up in the morning.
You told me something funny about seeing some barrels bobbing up and down along a hedgerow.
Oh yeah, there was looking. Those barrels were really sought after. I would imagine they would have been quite valuable. But I remember looking up across a field, and there was a lane the other side of the field, and all I could see was barrels bobbing up and down as people were walking up the lane with them on their shoulders.
So, actually, that image was straight out of the 1700s, and because Branscombe was well known as a smuggler's centre, and that image must have been Jack Rattenbury, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Well, that was an image straight out of the annals of Jack Rattenbury.
On Friday night, I always have a drink with 3 of the Rattenburys, and we're all related to him.
Are they?
Yeah.
So the family's still around here?
In Lyme Regis, yeah, the Rattenburys.
Wow. And I'll tell you another thing, and I believe you saw some of these going from the Napoli, were brand new, fabulously expensive BMW motorbikes.
Yeah, well, what happened there, I saw 2 guys pushing one up the beach and got it to the top of the pebbles, and I said to him, "Is that the only one you got?" He said, "No, we had another one, but somebody mugged us, and somebody from Manchester, a gang, came along and they nicked it.
No.
So we've got one hidden behind the bush over there." He said, "We're waiting till people thin out a bit before we take it back to the van."
I mean, these things were thousands.
Yeah, I suppose there's got to be some more honour among thieves, really, hasn't there, to be honest?
Well, I suppose the argument was, I don't know, there was a lot of argument in the news at the time about were people allowed to do this or weren't they, and people did get away with all that stuff.
Well,
how could you arrest 10,000 people?
Well, the police were sort of just being a bit silly. I saw one police officer with his notebook out, and he was writing down what this person. And I mean, while he's writing that down, there was another 1,000 people walking away with all sorts of stuff. This poor girl only had a few tubes of this and tubes of that, and he's writing it all down and wrote a name and address down. He said, "Right, you can go now."
Now, I spent the day down there on that one of the first days with you, because you rang me up and I came down, and I got a feeling that you and I were the only 2. I mean, I suppose we were idiots, really, but we were the only 2 people on the whole place that walked off that beach with exactly what we had arrived with. We took nothing.
Yeah, well, it was some sort of beauty cream, Nivea beauty cream for men.
Yeah, I could have done with that now.
And I decided that you and I didn't need it actually at the time.
Yeah, well, if you remember, one of my oldest friends waded up the beach with a sack of the stuff so big he could hardly carry it, and now people compliment him on how young he looks. I reckon there's some must work.
He was drinking it. You're supposed to rub it in.
So that must have been one of the biggest marine jobs as a photographer you've ever done.
Yeah, it probably was, really. I mean, it reminded me of Poldark in very many ways, really. Or
modern Poldark, yeah.
Yeah, it was. People used to wreck a lot. Well, they used to call them wreckers, didn't they?
Yeah.
And it was like that. I mean, they were scavengers. That's what I'd call them.
But I remember also going down and walking along and then coming across the container, and people were rifling through what was obviously someone's personal belongings.
Oh, no.
And apparently this person was en route to Australia to live, and there were family portraits and everything people were taking away. I found that pretty awful.
Yeah, well, honestly, it didn't make us British look in a good light. It really didn't. I thought it was disgusting, some of the stuff. I mean, it was almost like, you could not leave that beach without something tucked under your arm. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I did one of the weirdest things I saw that one day was a piece of wood which was about 3 foot by 2 foot. And sitting on this piece of wood was a toy tractor, and it had it was a electronic one for you could fire off with a thing in your hand. And it was just floating across the water. Now, I don't know why somebody must have put that on there, this guy took his trousers off and waded out in his underpants and grabbed it and brought it back in. It was all electric batteries and it worked.
So it hadn't been in the water.
Well, it was floating on a piece of wood on the sea.
Yeah, but yeah.
Where it had come from, I do not know. But he took it home, Christmas present for his kids.
I do hope, to be honest, from an environmental point of view, that's the last one we see, because it could have been a disaster for the coast, couldn't it? Seriously.
Well, it was plenty of work for me, because I was down there on and off for the next 3 months, and especially when they were going to blow it up. They didn't use enough dynamite the first time. There was what we thought was going to be a massive bang, and everybody, all the press were up in the cliff tops, and then a helicopter came over with heat-seeking equipment on and fished out another dozen photographers who were hiding in the bushes up there. And we all had to go back quite a long way, and it was like, right, 3, 2, 1, and it went. And I thought, what was a lot of smoke? But when the smoke cleared, they hadn't touched it at all.
Really?
Yeah, it wasn't like Michael Caine's. You're only supposed to blow the bloody doors off. So they had to set it up again. I think they had to blow it up 3 times before they could split it in half. Oh dear. Happy days, eh?
Yeah, happy days, Richard. Well, the days when press photographers used to be busy.
Yeah, absolutely. That's gone.
Yeah.
Won't see that again.
Richard, thank you very much as usual for entertaining us. Good old Richard. We always had a damn good laugh during the 20 or so years we worked together. Me, the scribbler, him, the snapper. Good days. And those days have gone now. Journalists don't really go out with star photographers anymore. There are no star photographers, most newspapers. So a lot of that is gone, and maybe in future podcasts in the series I'll talk again about that subject, the disappearing world of regional newspaper journalism. We did have a lot of good fun, and we saw a lot of extraordinary things. So more of my adventures in journalism soon. Do join me, I hope.